Good morning, everybody. My name is Bob Coughlin. I'm the president and CEO of MassBio, and I want to welcome all of you to today's forum on the state of biomanufacturing in Massachusetts. We're going to explore how the talent pool has grown in recent years and what else industry and higher education can do to work together to support our future needs. We're so thrilled to partner with MassBioEd, MassECON, and the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center to bring you today's program. It's the collaboration with these stakeholders that supports Massachusetts' stature as the best place in the world for the life sciences. We would not be the best place in the world for life sciences if it weren't for all of these amazing organizations working so closely together. That's how we've been able to grow the industry employment by nearly 50% in the last decade. You know, we've seen incredible growth around biomanufacturing this past year, despite the challenges brought on by COVID-19. Several companies have been moving ahead with their plans to open biomanufacturing facilities across the Commonwealth. MassBio is committed to growing Massachusetts' capabilities as a manufacturing hub. In fact, it was identified as a key opportunity for our Commonwealth to continue its leadership in the life sciences in our State of Possible strategic report. MassECON, Mass Life Science Center, and MassBioEd share this commitment and are essential to helping to ensure we have the talent to fill these manufacturing jobs. Today's forum brings together industry and higher ed to discuss how we can fuel this growth. Although Massachusetts attracts the best and brightest from around the world to tackle our toughest medical problems, we need to notice that we have a diverse, talented pipeline right here in our state, not just in Cambridge and Boston, but across the Commonwealth. Biomanufacturing presents an incredible opportunity for us to attract diverse workers and provide lucrative employment in an industry that's growing and will continue to do so. To do that, we need to ensure that industry and higher ed are aligned. That's what we're going to talk about today, folks. Now I'd like to pass it off to Ryan Mudawar, who's the Senior Director of Education and Workforce Partnerships for the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. He's going to provide an overview of the current state of affairs for biomanufacturing in Mass to help set the stage for today's panel discussion. And Ryan, I want to thank you. Many people don't realize the Massachusetts Life Science Center runs the largest publicly funded intern program in the world. And Ryan leads that, and he's built it. And if it weren't for Ryan and all of his colleagues at the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center, we wouldn't be the best place in the world for this industry. So thank you, Ryan. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Bob. On behalf of the Mass Life Sciences Center, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to provide a brief overview of the many biopharma manufacturing training programs available here in the Commonwealth. If you aren't familiar with the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center, we're the state's economic development and investment agency dedicated to supporting the growth of the life sciences in Massachusetts. As you know, Massachusetts is home to the world's leading life sciences ecosystem, fueled by unrivaled partnership between industry, academia, and government, and comprised of an unparalleled concentration of life sciences companies, research institutions, colleges and universities, nonprofits, and most importantly, talent. I'm pleased to say that since the MLSE was established in 2008, we have strategically deployed more than $750 million in state funding throughout Massachusetts through a combination of grants, loans, capital infrastructure investments, and tax incentives. Through public-private funding initiatives, the MLSE supports innovation, R&D, commercialization, and biomanufacturing activities. We also offer programs that fund workforce development initiatives, since we recognize that in order to strengthen our state's global leadership position in the life sciences, we must invest in the development of a robust and diverse workforce pipeline. A key pillar of our mission has been to support the training of our future workforce in order to meet the growing and evolving demand for talent across the industry. Our workforce development strategy mainly consists of a two-pronged approach. As Bob mentioned, one piece is providing internship opportunities for high school and college students that allow them to apply the skills they're learning in the classroom to real-world experiences. These paid internships supply students with the practical industry experience necessary for any recent graduate looking to enter the life sciences workforce. As of today, we've sponsored more than 5,000 paid internships with nearly 900 companies. The other piece is enabling our higher education institutions and secondary schools to build and outfit state-of-the-art labs and training facilities. We have now awarded nearly $200 million to colleges and universities and $18 million to over 200 high schools and middle schools. In a few moments, you'll hear from our esteemed panelists about some of the most game-changing biopharma manufacturing training assets made possible in part with MLSC and other state funding. These include Northeastern University's Biopharmaceutical Analysis Training Laboratory, which recently received a $4.2 million grant from MLSC to build out mock GMP suite and a biomanufacturing suite. The grant enabled the purchase of a manufacturing scale bioreactor and purification system, as well as upgrades to mass spectrometry instrumentation for the newly built out lab. Northeastern has a new partnership with Middlesex Community College that will award more than 500 underrepresented students from its premier biotechnology program with scholarships supporting their transfer to Northeastern on an accelerated pathway to a master's program. The strength of Middlesex's 30-year running biotechnology program paved the way for this partnership, and MLSC has been proud to fund the construction and outfitting of Middlesex's current facility, which prepares students for employment as technicians in manufacturing, media preparation, validation, quality control, documentation, and process operations. Like Middlesex, Quincy College also offers a renowned associate's degree program, which MLSC is proud to have helped establish and grow over the past decade. The program, which has a graduate employment rate of 98%, is designed to prepare students for entry-level positions in biomanufacturing and obtain industry-specific knowledge in the areas of quality control, process development, and upstream and downstream processing. The training combines traditional biomanufacturing with emerging in-demand and single-use systems. Middlesex and Quincy are among 15 two-year colleges in the state that have together received nearly $30 million in capital funding from the MLSC. You also hear about WPI's incomparable Biomanufacturing Education and Training Center, the BETC. It was a no-brainer for MLSC to invest nearly $3 million in this initiative, this important partnership between academia and industry, which creates customized workforce development solutions. The 10,000 square foot facility offers both microbial fermentation and animal cell culture capabilities and features today's most advanced bioprocessing equipment and instrumentation. It offers a fully functional pilot scale manufacturing plant that mirrors real world facilities, the newest technologies in use at leading biomanufacturing companies, as well as extensive hands-on practice guided by faculty and industry experts. Another great training facility is the Massachusetts Biomanufacturing Center located at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, which services clients in the biomanufacturing industry by providing solutions to challenges in process development, optimization, and characterization. The center works with industry to create and conduct customized on-site training programs. Lastly, I want to share that the MLSC has partnered with the National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing Biopharmaceuticals, known as NIMBLE, to accelerate biopharma manufacturing innovation, support the development of standards that enable more efficient and rapid manufacturing capabilities, and educate and train a world-leading biopharma manufacturing workforce. While I could go on and on, I'd rather you hear firsthand from our panelists about how these programs have strengthened our talent pipeline. So I'll now turn it over to my colleague from the MassBioEd Foundation, Carla Talanian, who will be moderating our panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for that very comprehensive introduction. So I'm Carla Talanian. I'm the Director of Talent and Workforce Development for the MassBio Educational Foundation. And with me here today, we have a panel of 6 experts. 4 are representing educational programs and 2 are leaders from industry, and they can speak directly to the hiring landscape that they found for their biomanufacturing sites. Our educators are going to provide a description of their own programs. They are training both students at the associate's degree level through PhD level and also have enhanced training for incumbent workers. I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. So please start off very briefly, just your name, your title, and the organization you're representing, and then we will go into details very soon after that. I'll just call you one by one. Chris, can you start off, please?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Murphy. I'm the Vice President General Manager of Viral Vector Services for Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Thank you. Jared?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jared Auclair, the Director of the Biopharmaceutical Analysis and Training Lab at Northeastern University.
Floyd? Floyd?
Sorry, the
Is it-
space bar wasn't quite handling my unmute for me. Sorry about that. I apologize. I'm Floyd Brownewell. I'm professor of practice for the BETC at Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Excellent. Al?
Hi, everyone. Al Boyle with Alnylam Pharmaceuticals. I'm the Senior Vice President of Technical Operations and Quality.
Great. Carl?
Hi, I'm Carl Lawton. I'm Director of the Massachusetts Biomanufacturing Center at the University of Massachusetts Lowell.
Great. And Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate Sweeney. I serve as the Dean for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math at Middlesex Community College.
Excellent, thank you. So I'd like to start this conversation on the industry side. Chris, so Thermo Fisher is a huge company with thousands of products, but for the sake of this panel, let's focus on your particular area of expertise. Thermo Fisher is spending $180 million on a new facility to produce viral vectors for gene therapy. Can you speak a little bit about what led you to select Plainville as the site for this expansion?
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, it's interesting. By the way, we're going to end up spending well in excess of that number when you look at our investments in Massachusetts for viral vector. But it's interesting because our decision to locate that facility in Massachusetts was really based on a nationwide search. So we employed some consultants and some experts to look at the landscape all across North America. And really the key elements for us and really in priority was, first off, was workforce. We knew we needed availability to workforce because making viral vectors is complex work. It's not a commodity type activity, and it does require certain types of skills, whether it's both on the technical side as well as sort of almost a mindset in the way you go about working, because it's an relatively immature manufacturing processes and very complex. So workforce was number one. Of course, there's accessibility, of course, into the area and into the region, which we have a lot of that opportunity in Massachusetts with airports and the like. Proximity to customers was a really important one as well. Obviously, this is, as Bob likes to say, which I agree with him, this is the world's largest cluster, the greatest cluster for biotech. And to be in this area is phenomenal. And of course, we needed space. And the site in Plainville is close to 300,000 square foot shelf space. So when you look at these transformative medicines that are rapidly being developed to treat rare disease and cancer, capacity does become a critical factor. So we did need that capacity. So we really found all four of those elements here in Massachusetts.
Excellent, thank you. I just want to do a quick reminder for the audience. We'll be taking questions throughout the panel. If you have any questions, please just enter them in the chat and we'll address them just as they come. Moving next to Al. Alnylam is a mid-sized and growing biotech company with a fairly novel technology. And I'd like to ask you the same question. What made Alnylam choose Norton as their new site for manufacturing?
Yeah, Carla, there's some similarities as to what Chris articulated, and then there are some nuanced differences. Likewise, we actually did a global search for where to locate the manufacturing facility. And, an element for us being our technology, we're small interfering RNA. We leverage external manufacturers, and we still do, to enable the business, but doing it ourselves for the first time to make drug substance, we felt it was important to be close to our development team in Cambridge. And so that helped, while we looked worldwide, it did help influence to stay local. And then everything that Chris said about the infrastructure, about Massachusetts, right? Access to talent. Norton, it was big for us. There's, we're about, depends on how fast you drive and when the traffic is, right? You could be 45 minutes away from Cambridge. The local support to enable us to provide access to land, to work with fire and safety, because we are a little bit different and we're not a biologic, right? We're a chemical synthesis, and everyone has been incredibly supportive. Wheaton College, diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important to us. Wheaton College is a Women in STEM Summit, right? So that's from an access to talent and community as well. And with MassBio, a lot of that drove our wanting to stay local and in the Commonwealth, and the access to talent. There's an element of our workforce that is nuanced specifically to oligonucleotide, right? And the chemistry and the science. but a lot of what we do is very consistent across the portfolio of biomanufacturing. And you know, the constellation of companies and access to academia and those resources really drove us to be in Norton. And it's funny, it's the 5th anniversary of our board saying go. It was 5 years ago on December 18th. So it's a very important time of year for me.
Excellent, excellent. We picked the state specifically for that, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Turning it over to the academic side, Floyd, can I start with you? I'd like you to just describe the BETC at WPI and specifically how your facility helps industry to build talent.
Thank you, Carla. The BETC offers a full range of education and training opportunities. We have at the upper end, we have a non-thesis master's program that we offer in biomanufacturing, which offers a great deal of flexibility to the students that enroll. Sometimes they're enrolled as individuals. Sometimes we do cohorts with companies in which everyone in the program is a part of that particular company. And we at the BETC, we support that program specifically by hosting the skills-based courses that are an integral part of this program within our facility. We also offer entry-level training programs for either new employees into manufacturing or transitioning workers from other fields who may not be familiar with biomanufacturing as an opportunity in general. And it's an 8-week course. It's comprehensive, and it focuses greatly on hands-on, in which we, in many ways, we simulate what these new floor workers will experience when they're hired by one of our biomanufacturing partners. And then we have a variety of programs aimed at non-specialists, which are folks who maybe work within the biomanufacturing industry, but are not active in the actual biomanufacturing. People such as sales and support staff who need to understand the language, need to understand what their business actually does, even if they're not directly involved in that. And then, of course, there's the full range of upstream and downstream processing that we can tailor specifically by depth and content topic area, depending on what the client that we're partnering with needs to serve their particular workforce.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. Jared, so Northeastern fairly recently created the Biopharmaceutical Analysis Training Lab, also known by the acronym BATTLE. And I'm sure that all the work you're doing now with COVID testing, that acronym is probably particularly appropriate. Can you describe the center in general and what kind of training you intend to focus on there?
Yeah, thanks, Carla. And yes, the COVID testing is a battle. 7,000 tests a day. It's a lot.
7,000. Wow.
Yeah, BATTLE has been, as Ryan mentioned, funded through the Mass Life Science Center to expand our biomanufacturing capabilities. At the core of what we do is really linking research and education more seamlessly together. So we research in the manufacturing space and in analytics, and loop that back to our training programs so that we're producing state-of-the-art trainings for industry and other partners. Of course, everything that we develop is developed in collaboration with industry. Who am I to say what Al or Chris needs without talking to them? So we try to do that wherever possible. And really then linking government, academia, and industry together in our training programs, largely focusing on MABs through cell and gene therapies. We're bringing in several single-use bioreactors and downstream purification to supplement our biomanufacturing training programs that we have that are off the shelf and custom, to really emphasize, like Floyd mentioned, hands-on, or the Northeastern lingo, because I'm paid to say, experiential learning. So we really focus on that. And of course, we do these trainings for industry and upskilling and reskilling, but more importantly, we have over 700 master's students at the university that we train in similar spaces, so that we can upskill and reskill the current industry folks, but also produce the next generation of biomanufacturing specialists and others. And one of the beauties of BATTLE is, we also have links to the analytical aspects. So we do the biomanufacturing and the bioanalysis. So we have several state-of-the-art mass spectrometers, flow cytometry, and other analytical technologies that we put into our trainings, and really in the hopes in the long run of promoting continuous manufacturing opportunities, as well as process analytical technologies being put in line as opposed to at line and offline. And I'll let Kathleen talk about our A2M program that Ryan mentioned, but the Biopharmaceutical Analysis and Training Lab is a cornerstone of that program, as we're able to do hands-on training for those students in our lab and really promote industry and the region, which is really exciting.
Excellent.
And of course, my bottom line is I'm in it for the students and the patients, so we believe in skill-based credentialing and ensuring quality products to get to the patient.
Excellent, thank you. And yeah, so I'm going to give Kate the chance to talk about those programs in just a moment, but I want to first go to Carl. Can you talk about the Biomanufacturing Center at ULowell and specifically how you engage with industry there? You're on mute, Carl.
How's that? Much better.
Much better.
Welcome, everyone. Here at University of Massachusetts Lowell, we've been doing biomanufacturing development, working closely with companies for more than 30 years now. During that time, we have evolved as the industry has evolved and have tailored our programs to meet that need. We offer the traditional undergraduate and graduate curriculums in engineering and a variety of sciences. But in addition, we sponsor many interns through our co-op program that the students find really rewarding. And I know the companies greatly appreciate it. Pfizer's just right up the street from us, and they make liberal use of that talent. We also have many customized programs working either with our faculty, invited faculty, or in collaboration with industry. A recent example of that is offering continuous purification with Chromicon, YMC, and Mudawar. And it's nice, that type of program is nice because the students off from industry would come in, learn about the processes, but able to move right into the laboratories to be able to see the equipment and get a firsthand experience of what this is. And we do this with all different types of new technology, much of which we're helping to develop, particularly in terms of sensors, inline sensors. We're really lucky to be in Massachusetts. It's not just a great biomanufacturing space, but it's a space for semiconductors, advanced technologies and control and artificial intelligence. And all these come together to develop the future of where this industry is going. One of the themes that we've liked to bring into our students, they can be experts in chemistry, process controls, but what I found over time is that people that are not familiar with the industry don't really understand the regulatory burden or the regulatory concept, and so we build this in from the first day. It reminds me of discussions I had when I was a young faculty member, of when we'd interact with companies, and the question would come up, well, why do the regulatory folks have so much power within a company? And it took me a while to understand and figure that out. But really, as an employee, really needs to understand this culture and be familiar with all parts of the company to be successful and help that company thrive. Mass Life Sciences Center, it's been very helpful to us in a number of equipment upgrades and facilities. So currently the laboratory that I am in has been completely renovated by that. We have a state-of-the-art lyophilization facility in the building you see behind me. One of the few in the country. where companies can actually come in and do process development and get people trained in state-of-the-art lyophilization techniques. That just gives you sort of a flavor of the things that we're constantly doing. And a lot of it feeds off of our interaction on a research level, applied research level, with companies either manufacturing products or suppliers to the industry, somebody like Millipore or small sensor development companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can leave you with that.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. So Kate, the biotech programs at Middlesex Community College have been around for what, 30 years, and probably
1990.
Yeah, I mean, literally thousands of technicians and future leaders to the Massachusetts life sciences companies. Yet MCC continues to grow and innovate by expanding access and opportunities to students. Can you elaborate on 3 recent developments? First being the construction of the new Biomanufacturing Center in Lowell. Second, the A2M program that Jared had mentioned previously. And finally, the new Learn and Earn program that started just a few months ago.
Sure, certainly. Thank you very much. So we started 30 years ago with 25 students. Our current enrollment is about 149. And I think what's important to the industry is we are a majority minority program with over 65% of our students being Asian, Black, or Hispanic. We recently opened a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art teaching facility, as Ryan mentioned, on our Lowell campus, partially funded through a grant from Mass Life Sciences. It is on Middle Street, takes up the whole floor. They have a dedicated space for the biotech, and it's meant to mimic industry. There is a clean room that we were able to establish as part of the facility, and all of the equipment is new. We have flow cytometry, several bioreactors, and about 4 times the biosafety hoods that we used to have. So the faculty are delighted, and the students just can't believe they're working in this state-of-the-art facility. Students are trained in valuable skills and have been hired consistently at a variety of companies. They run the gamut in terms of how we prepare them, or standard operating procedures and safety procedures, good manufacturing practices. They actually spend a lot of time on hands-on and learn and perform cell cultures, bioreactors, gel phoresis, the whole gamut of what's needed at your facilities. We offer both a certificate and an associate degree, as well as customized contact training to meet your needs. Students, when they come to see us, are grounded in their first semester in biology, chemistry, and math. And then they have 4 semesters of courses in biotech and a mandatory internship. The A2M Scholars Program is a wonderful partnership with Northeastern. It was established through a grant that Northeastern, with us as a partner, got from NSF. The grant capitalizes on our articulation agreements with Northeastern and supports students to obtain their bachelor's and master's degrees in biotech. The grant provides scholarships of up to 10,000 students per student per year. There's a dedicated A2M support team. There's a navigator that resides at Northeastern and at Middlesex to help students through their degrees, help them make good choices. When they get to Northeastern, they are supplied with laptops and textbooks as needed, and also assistance with transportation and tutoring costs. It offers a great pathway to Northeastern's accelerated +1 master's degree. So students it's a great articulation agreement. All our credits are accepted, and then students are really helped as they're moving forward in their degree. It's been a great partnership. The Learn and Earn experience is new. We're in our pilot year. It's an opportunity for biotech students to take classes while working at biotech companies as a paid intern apprentice. The program fulfills two needs. It creates a reliable pipeline of qualified, diverse employees and provides a source of income for students in their field of study and a foot in the door in the biotech industry. Middlesex provides trained candidates to employers. Employers select students to hire, and then students choose an employer for their internship. In terms of wages, students are paid in line with employees with similar positions and similar level of experience. The internship length, students work as an intern apprentice for about 1 to 2 years based on the employer's hiring needs. Students work between 20 to 40 hours a week, depending on the needs of the employer. Right now, we're working with Takeda in our pilot year, Takeda and AbbVie, and students are working full-time, 40 hours. What's really important and key to the success of this program is the way we're managing the relationships with both companies, but also we're providing a schedule for students for their classes that match their rotating schedules or their off schedules. So we design and provide classes that work with their work schedule, which makes it much more feasible for students as they're going through the program. Students also have mentorships and online training, on-site training, at the companies. So we're really excited about the new facility as well as the new Learn and Earn program and continuing our partnership with Northeastern to serve you as best we can. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, I remember hearing just recently that one of the perhaps unforeseen benefits of the Learn and Earn program was because you went through all the effort to have the schedule match the manufacturing schedule at the local companies. They were now incumbent workers at those companies who for the first time were able to continue their own education because the classes were offered. So that's excellent.
Yes, it really has made a difference
from that. Excellent. Just a quick reminder to the audience, if you do have questions for anybody, you can just enter them in the chat and we'll bring them up. But for now, I'd like to circle back to the industry side. So Chris, I'd just like to hear some of your stories. Thermo Fisher has multiple facilities within Massachusetts that serve different functions. Can you speak a little to the pros and cons of having a space in Kendall Square versus some of the suburban communities that Thermo already has a presence in?
Sure. It's interesting. I mean, I think everyone probably agree that you wouldn't probably consciously go build a manufacturing facility in Kendall Square today. And I think given the price of real estate and parking and things like that, but, you know, frankly, that was a great opportunity for us because that was Biogen's original commercial manufacturing facility. And we're excited that it'll soon get a license for a gene therapy product after 25 years after it would have launched Avonex from there, which was really part of the boom and the start of the big biotech boom in Massachusetts. You know, look, I think it's exciting for the younger folk, I think, you know, in that they don't have to have a car and they can commute in. And if you walk to lunch in Kendall, it's kind of cool. You see people, so there's high tech there, there's obviously biotech, and it's very vibrant. Although, as some of you know, it's not that easy to drive in and out of, particularly when there's no pandemic. But I think the big advantage for us, to your point of this sort of concentration we have of commercial operations in Massachusetts, is really development and career paths for our folks. So this concept of getting them in the door, and then they're not just looking at one facility and their next opportunity is whatever their boss's role is, or, you know, someone next to them or left to right. There's actually opportunities not just within viral vector services, but there's corporate opportunities because our world headquarters are there in Waltham. We also have an operation down in Franklin. So I think there's some real advantages to that, but I think as everyone is aware, and this is why we're on this call, there's a huge competition for talent, huge competition. And, you know, the attrition rates are easily 20%, I'd say, because you look at this incredible transformative vaccine being created by Moderna and the growth there, of course, and never mind the gene therapy boom and the viral vectors and the like. So we're just seeing that is the biggest challenge. Is frankly, it's hard to keep folks, you know, in your company for more than 2 years because there's going to be a great opportunity for them at a different company. So I do think that's something that I wouldn't call, I don't like using the term war, but it is certainly a high competition for talent, for sure. And that's why building this pipeline, as Carla, you and I know, as part of MassBioEd Foundation, becomes so crucial in the state, because we all know the economy here had recovered so quickly a few years ago with the recession, really in large part through the biotech industry, and certainly is booming in large part because of biotech and biopharma. So it's important we keep feeding the systems and the companies that can really help drive the economy. So, but it's great. I'm not originally from Massachusetts or Boston, but it's home, and I do think a lot of folks want to stay in the state and raise families, kids, all those types of things here. So it's great that we can create opportunities for them to stay here.
Excellent. Thanks. And just sort of generally speaking, have you found it easier or more difficult to attract people to work in the city versus working in the suburbs?
Surprisingly, it hasn't been as hard as I thought. I actually thought it was going to be a huge challenge. And when I was at Sanofi Genzyme, we had a facility in Framingham. We had a number of facilities in Framingham, plus the facility in Boston and Alston. Mm-hmm. And it used to be a big challenge at 17 miles or so between Framingham and Boston to get folks to be willing to understandably commute in from west of Framingham for obvious reasons. I mean, that's a pretty tough commute. But actually, we've had really not that much of a problem attracting folks into Kendall. And again, I think it's because they like the idea of living, taking mass transit, not having a car. I think there's a kind of a city mindset there that I think has worked pretty well for us. So I think it's actually become better than I would have thought it could have been.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Al, I'm going to ask you to start off with pretty much the same question. The pros and cons, what do you find different from your new facility in Norton versus the facility that you have right in Kendall Square? And then the relative ease or difficulty of attracting people to work in either location.
Yeah, again, similar stories to Chris' experiences. Everyone loves a new manufacturing facility, and to get interest even within your own company, but from externally, the challenge of a project like that makes it easier to attract interest. We've been very fortunate with our number of commercial approvals over the last 3 years, 3 in 3 years. We're fortunate in that regard. The flip is from where we are in our growth trajectory, where's the future, right? And the sustained growth. And I think a commitment to a facility like Norton has helped, garner talent. And also based on the other manufacturing environment, you've heard a lot on this call so far of mention of analytics and upstream and downstream and things. Some of that is very similar to what we do. Other is very different. We don't do cell culture. And so for us specifically, your question was about Cambridge and Norton, but this thread of there's a nuance to our technology that affects where people may want to take a step. If you're an experienced cell culture downstream person, there's a lot of overlap. And so the idea of working for an oligonucleotide manufacturer and working outside the city and taking a job out there, maybe it's not as scary as if you're a cell culture person and want to transition into a quality role, in our Cambridge site, right? So we have a little bit of our subtlety of technology that influences, but overall, I'd say our experience is a little bit different than Thermo Fisher and Chris that's seen. We do see that bringing folks from either outside of I'll call it the 93 circle, right? Beyond that into Cambridge, there's always a little bit of reticence only because there's more opportunities, thankfully, thanks to MassBio and everyone else in the constellation here, that they can go into other opportunities outside the city. So we are looking at how do we, and the pandemic is driving a little bit, we're learning we can be much more remote than we thought we could in prior. How do we evolve ourselves, right, to then attract that talent so that they can contribute to what we're doing, and yet maybe they don't have to sit in a Cambridge site specifically, or even sit in a Norton site specifically. Maybe it can be remote, and we're working ourselves through that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, and you almost started to answer the next question I had for you is because manufacturing oligos is a little different from the traditional biomanufacturing. In terms of the talent and the skills that you're looking to hire, are you recruiting from a different pool of talent, or
Probably
taking-
call it, yeah, I'd
Go ahead.
call it, it's not quite the 80-20 rule, maybe it's 75-25. You know, a lot of chemical engineering, you know, ultrafiltration skid, chrome skid, piping, electrical, mechanical, that's very similar when you talk about a manufacturing facility. Quality oversight, Carl mentioned, you know, regulatory affairs, QA, even a lot of the analytics, right? A number of it is very similar. Some of it, though, is bespoke, is a little bit different based on the nature of the molecule. And so we're a bit of it in a hybrid where there are certain skill sets where we're actually looking to cultivate more. And I guess my message to the academics are, you know, it's not just about growing cells, right? There's other technology that we're working on, and a foundation in chemistry, right, is huge for us, because then the specifics of oligonucleotide, whether it be synthesis or purification, and the details, we can handle that. But that strong foundation of chemistry is a little bit nuanced for us, a little bit more important organic chemistry than maybe for some of the other of our industry partners in the Commonwealth.
Mhm. Excellent. Thank you for that. I want to go back to Jared. I know at the battle, you are offering multinational programs and regulatory harmonization. Can you speak a little bit to that and how you've built relationships with other government agencies?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, a large part of what we do at Battle is focus on the regulatory aspects of drug manufacturing and how that happens. We have great collaborations with the United States from them, but also the US FDA and others. And we're a center of excellence in biotherapeutics, cell and gene therapies for the Asia Pacific Economic Corporation, and we collaborate closely with the International Council for Harmonization in ensuring quality, safety, and good quality, safe, and effective drugs get to patients, which I mentioned. So we develop training programs that we deliver at Battle. We sponsor international regulators from around the world to come to me here in Burlington and train them in front of the instruments, but also on, best practices, science-based, risk-based evaluation. Actually, we snuck in one training on March 9th through the 12th with some African regulators before the university closed us down on the 13th of March, and they got the last flights back home. So that was great. We still do that, webinars and other ways right now. When I'm allowed to travel, I've been to every continent but Antarctica, training regulators from China to Armenia to what have you. And really it's about, for me, the patient, but building programs that allow regulators to not be afraid of innovations and new innovations, and to look at them with a scientific lens so that patients get the products they need more quickly. And in doing so across the world, bringing them to me and going to them, building a sort of a regulatory community where we can help those countries really get those products to patients. Of course, it does provide one other benefit to me and to those that we train. If you want to think about it this way, I have some inside information on what the regulators from different agencies are looking at or thinking about. And we can sort of help train regulators based on best practices that the industry sees, but also, flip that backwards and say, this is what the regulators are thinking, and really build that community. And some of our trainings actually are industry and regulators mixed, depending on the content and the desire of the audience. Some of them are separated, but the same training to each party so that they're all on the same page. And it's been really effective. And just one anecdotal story, we did drug stability training for Anvisa in Brazil because they weren't implementing the ICH guidelines properly, according to ICH, not according to Jared. And a small part of our training helped them understand how to implement ICH guidelines, and then they changed their regulations, not only because of our training, clearly, but other reasons, so that biologics and chemical drugs were analyzed using the stability guidelines provided by ICH more appropriately. So that was pretty exciting. And we invite all companies and regulators and academics to collaborate with us in that space. There's so much work to do, and really powerful to do across the globe. Also bring some nice insights back to Massachusetts. Also, I would say we can share what we know here, that because like Bob and others have said, we're the hub, and we can share that out across the world and really promote convergence, as you mentioned, Carla.
Excellent. That's interesting. Thank you so much. I'm going to open up a question to both Carl and Floyd. If you could speak a little bit about how you've pivoted your training to be offering to offer things virtually, just in the wake of the pandemic. And as a follow-on, if anything that you've learned through this might carry forward once we're back to being able to do things in person.
Sure, it's been a challenge. Our program, as I mentioned, is very hands-on intensive. It's part of what we built our program around, is to have these trainees and our students get their hands dirty, so to speak, and actually grow a culture, purify that culture. All of that has to happen, and as we can all imagine, it's incredibly difficult to do that virtually. We've had to learn how to use new technology, how to speak in front of a camera. It's when one is used to having a room full of people to speak to and reacting to body language and raised eyebrows or squinted eyebrows, when you're looking at a camera, when most people choose to keep their cameras off, it takes some new skill sets. We did just 3 weeks or so ago completed our first remote live, I'll call it, training with a corporate client, which we had about 50 people over the course of 2 weeks, ran 2 back-to-back sessions. And basically what we did is we substituted demonstrations, and we had, their interest really was a focus on troubleshooting. So we worked in a lot more discussion in terms of what kinds of problems might be encountered and what the equipment is prepared to do, or what kinds of troubleshooting thought processes are valuable on the floor. And as far as going in, and we got a lot of really great feedback, a lot of very positive feedback. Actually, I don't think out of any of the surveys we had really anything that was remotely critical of what we offered. So we were quite pleased with that, especially given the first go around. But as far as going into the future, I hear a lot of talk about, oh, I can't wait till we go back to the way it was. It'll be so great when we're back to the way things were. We don't need to do that because, in a few months we're going to have a vaccine. We can go back to the way. I don't think it's going to go back to the way it was. And one of the things that I'm envisioning is that we will go back to live training. But I'm also picturing that we're going to have a stream over here in which not everybody is going to be on site, and we will have people who have access who might not otherwise have come to us anyway, but now they have a new avenue because they can come in remotely, and we're going to have this continuous hybrid, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Personally, early on in the pandemic, I was moderating a panel of HR representatives and talked about the difficulty continuing to hire people, to interview people, and then to onboard new hires. And what they said was they actually learned that a lot of things they had to do because of the pandemic it turned out to be really best practices. So the idea of, for example, having an experienced tech in the lab by him or herself with a GoPro on their head, showing a new hire exactly how you do a particular assay, and then that's there forever. That new person can go back and review it over and over again. It can be used for multiple people. Whereas if you're just taking one person and training them in person once, things get forgotten, things get misunderstood. So things like that might actually benefit us going forward. Carl, I'm going to ask you the same question. So what have your experiences been at UMass Lowell? And do you think that you've learned anything through the pandemic in terms of bringing some trainings online that can be used in the future? Oop, you're on mute.
There we go. I'd like to reflect what you just said, and Floyd, also what you did. There's certainly a lot of learning that has gone on. I have to admit, I was quite resistant. I guess I'm old-fashioned in a lot of ways, and but I've come to appreciate and can utilize the online format in a number of ways. One particularly reaching out to companies and industries. if someone has a 9-to-5 job, they probably want to get home. They don't necessarily want to come into a classroom, whether it's a lecture or a laboratory. And it becomes a very viable way to reach those people. And so we're talking actively of how we can accelerate that process. The intimacy of the classroom is missing, but if you do it every week, you start learning new ways, new feedback ways. And it's not something you consciously do. It just starts to build within the classroom. I see the same sort of thing happening that I do in a live classroom. Is usually you'll have, if it's a class of 30 people, you'll have maybe 5 or 6 that are really on the same page that you are actively participating. And I find exactly the same thing on Zoom. Those people all have their cameras on, they're active. The one thing I found that's really difficult is to tell a joke. Because you don't know if they're laughing or crying when you say it. And then I like the idea of the GoPro going through the instruction. And within our undergraduate chemical engineering unit operations lab, sort of classic one that every chemical engineering student has to take, we're in the process of designing that so that it can be operated remotely. And you might have one member of a team in the facility, but the other 3 or 4 team members are working remotely. And you can get the data, you can turn on the valves, close the valves, just like you were there.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Great. We have one question that came in, Chris. I believe this is directed at you. Thermo Fisher has a leadership development program, and will this program be expanded to the biomanufacturing division?
Well, so it already is, actually. It's interesting. So I've already had, we call it a GLDP, Global Leadership Development Program. And I've already had folks rotate from that program into my division. And so there really is no formal biotech division. We obviously have a breadth of products and services across Thermo Fisher. But obviously, viral vector services is a biotech division, and yes, so it already is expanded, and we already have folks rotating through my division that are a part of that program.
Excellent. All right. So I also just want to add that while our panelists today represent some outstanding institutions and facilities, Massachusetts offers so many more programs. It's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's many more academic programs and facilities to partner with from the industry, both in terms of recruiting students and at all levels, associates through PhD levels, and then also partnering with these institutions for your long-term training needs. I'd also like to take a moment to do a shameless plug for MassBioEd's newest initiative. Launching in 2021, we will be offering an apprenticeship program for biomanufacturing technicians. Apprenticeships obviously have been around for hundreds of years, but they are new to the life sciences. We will be offering an accelerated, very intensive education and training program, followed by a full year of on-the-job training at an employer partner. We've recently been awarded a $200,000 grant from Bristol Myers Squibb. They will be one of our founding employer partners, and this will help fund the first cohort of apprentices. So anyone from industry who's interested in learning more about this, please contact me directly. I'd be more than happy to provide details on that. So thank you all for a very illuminating talk. I think the overriding theme here was partnerships between industry and academia. That's obviously the most important thing. You can't offer programs that nobody needs, and certainly important for potential companies moving here to know who to contact. I'd ask you all if you're willing to, put your email addresses in the chat or a LinkedIn profile. So if anybody's interested, they can reach out to you directly, or perhaps just, a link to your facility specifically. And I'd like now to turn the mic over to Paul Bauer. Paul is an attorney representing Bewitch Corporation, our event sponsor, and he'll be providing some closing remarks.
Thank you, Carla. I'm a partner at the law firm of Bewitch and Dewey and a member of the board of directors at MassECON. In my real estate practice, I work with the life science industry on moving their projects forward. And we at Bewitch are proud to sponsor this event to shine a light on the biomanufacturing industry in Massachusetts. Thank you to our speakers and co-hosts, including MassBio, MassBioEd, Mass Life Science Center, and MassECON. I was just briefly, but I was struck by the number of ingredients that make up the secret sauce for Massachusetts' success in the life science industry. And as we've discussed today, the biomanufacturing sector. These include a highly skilled workforce, a higher education system, both public and private, to make this workforce a reality, highly attuned state and local governments to foster the industry, and of course, a life science industry that is second to none, and also available infrastructure and space to make it all work. And I think we touched on a lot of that here today. It should make us both proud of where we've come, as I remember working on projects a fairly long time ago now in Kendall, and Kendall was sort of the whole game, and now we're looking at the entire Commonwealth as having locations and mini clusters in different sectors of the industry. It should make us proud, as I mentioned, and it should energize us to keep pushing forward. The training programs, training facilities, and new private sector facilities that we've heard about today provide a great base for continuing the industry. And I think we've clearly got opportunities for additional manufacturing operations here in the Commonwealth. And it was good also here to the ultimate focus on all of this business is on the well-being of patients, and it keeps us grounded in our mission. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for a great talk. It was a lot of fun to listen and I learned a lot. Thanks to our speakers, we have better insight today on the quality of talent development assets that we have in Massachusetts. And thanks for everyone for joining us.
All right, great. Thank you, Paul. And it's 11 o'clock, so our time here is done. Thank you, all the panelists, very, very much for giving us your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.